The transport ship Meridian's Pride drifted through the void like a wounded animal, its hull scarred by plasma burns and meteor impacts. Inside the cramped holding bay, 200 human prisoners sat in silence, their wrists bound by energy shackles that hummed with alien technology. The air reeked of sweat, fear, and the metallic tang of recycled atmosphere. Marcus Chen pressed his back against the cold metal wall, studying the Korthak guards through half-closed eyes. The reptilian aliens stood 7 feet tall, their scaled skin gleaming under harsh fluorescent lights. Their forearms moved with predatory grace, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. Most prisoners avoided eye contact with them, but Marcus watched everything. He had been a maintenance engineer on the mining station Kepler-7 when the Korthak Empire struck without warning. The attack came during the night shift, when most of the station's 3,000 inhabitants were asleep. Marcus had been deep in the reactor core when the alarm started screaming. By the time he reached the main deck, Korthak warriors were already herding survivors into transport ships. The aliens spoke in harsh, clicking languages among themselves, but their translation devices converted their words into broken standard English when addressing the humans. "You are property now," their commander had announced as the ships departed. "Useful slaves for the Empire. Obey and you live. Resist and you feed the void." That had been 6 days ago. 6 days of cramped quarters, stale rations, and watching fellow humans disappear into other sections of the ship. Marcus knew they were being sorted by physical capabilities and technical skills. The strong would go to labor camps. The smart would work in factories or research facilities. The rest would likely end up in the fighting pits for alien entertainment. A young woman named Sarah sat beside him, clutching a small data pad she had somehow kept hidden. She was maybe 25, with short auburn hair and intelligent green eyes that reminded Marcus of his daughter back on Earth. Sarah had worked in communications at the mining station, and Marcus had seen her jury-rig emergency broadcasts during the attack. "They don't know about human reflexes," Sarah whispered, so quietly that even Marcus could barely hear her. "I've been monitoring their bio readings through the ship's internal sensors. Their reaction times are 60% slower than ours." Marcus nodded slightly. He had noticed the same thing during their capture. The Korthak moved with deliberate precision, but they lacked the lightning-quick responses that humans took for granted. Their superior strength and technology made up for it in most situations, but it was still a weakness. "Their hierarchy is everything to them," Sarah continued. "I've been listening to their communications. Lower ranks never question orders, never act without permission. It makes them predictable." A Korthak guard approached their section, his 4 eyes scanning the prisoners with bored indifference. His translator crackled to life as he spoke. "Food distribution in 10 minutes. Form lines by row. No talking. No sudden movements." Marcus studied the guard's equipment. Standard plasma rifle slung across his back, energy baton on his hip, and what looked like a personal shield generator on his chest. The aliens relied heavily on their technology, but Marcus had spent 20 years working with complex machinery. Every system had vulnerabilities. The guard moved on, and Sarah risked another whisper. "There's something else. I intercepted part of a transmission to their command ship. We're not going to a labor camp first. They're taking us to their fortress world for some kind of ceremony." "What kind of ceremony?" I couldn't translate all of it, but I caught words that roughly mean example and submission. "I think they want to make a statement with us." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The Korthak Empire had a reputation for public executions and torture as entertainment. If they were being taken to a fortress world for a ceremony, it meant they would likely die in front of cheering alien crowds. The food distribution began, guards moving down the rows with trays of gray protein paste and water tubes. Marcus accepted his portion without comment, but his mind was racing. He counted 16 guards in the holding bay, with more stationed throughout the ship. The humans outnumbered them 12 to 1, but the aliens had superior weapons and armor. As the guards distributed food, Marcus noticed something interesting. The Korthak commander, identifiable by his silver armor and additional arms modifications, entered the bay to observe. He moved with the arrogant confidence of someone who had never faced real resistance. His 3 subordinate officers flanked him, their postures respectful and submissive. The commander's translator activated as he addressed the prisoners. "I am War Captain Zeltaroth of the Korthak 7th Fleet. You are the first humans our empire has encountered. and you will serve as examples to your entire species. Soon you will understand the futility of resistance against the Korthak Empire. Marcus kept his expression neutral, but he was cataloging every detail. The commander wore ceremonial armor with exposed joints at the shoulders and knees. His weapon was an ornate plasma pistol that looked more decorative than practical. Most importantly, he carried himself like someone who had never been in real combat. Only battles against technologically inferior opponents. Your species shows promise as laborers, Zeltaroth continued. Those who prove useful will be allowed to serve the Empire. Others will provide entertainment in our arenas. A few will be kept for breeding programs to expand your population under our control. Sarah's hand clenched beside Marcus, and he could feel the anger radiating from dozens of prisoners. The commander seemed to enjoy their reaction, his scaled lips pulling back in what might have been a smile. Rest well, humans. Tomorrow we reach Korthak Prime, where your new lives will begin. Tonight is your last as free beings, though freedom was always an illusion for inferior species. The commander turned to leave, but paused at the bay entrance. Oh, and do not consider escape attempts. This ship contains enough firepower to sterilize a small moon. Your deaths would be quicker than you deserve. As the aliens departed, Marcus felt the familiar weight of determination settling in his chest. He had survived 3 mining accidents, 2 station decompression events, and a reactor meltdown that should have killed everyone on Kepler-7. He had not lived through all of that just to become an alien's plaything. Around him, other prisoners were beginning to whisper among themselves. Engineers, miners, security personnel, and technicians, all with skills that could be useful. All with reasons to fight. Marcus closed his eyes and began to plan. The Korthak thought humans were just another conquered species. Tomorrow they would learn how wrong they were. The massive fortress world of Korthak Prime filled the viewport like a mechanical nightmare. Towering spires of black metal stretched toward space, connected by bridges that pulsed with energy conduits. The entire planet had been transformed into a single, continent-spanning city designed to showcase the Empire's power. Marcus pressed his face against the small porthole, watching as their transport ship descended through layers of defensive satellites and patrol vessels. Each structure seemed designed to intimidate, from the skull-shaped docking bays to the massive screens displaying images of conquered worlds and enslaved species. 27 different species, Sarah whispered beside him, her hidden data pad still monitoring alien communications. That's how many they've enslaved so far. We're about to become number 28. The ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere, artificial gravity systems adjusting to compensate. Through the walls, Marcus could hear the excited chatter of Korthak crew members preparing for landing. For them, this was a celebration. For the humans, it was the beginning of a nightmare. War Captain Zeltaroth's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Prepare the specimens for presentation. The High Council is eager to see these new acquisitions. Guards flooded into the holding bay, their weapons powered and ready. The energy shackles on the prisoners' wrists grew tighter, and Marcus felt the familiar tingle of neural suppressors activating. The aliens were taking no chances with their valuable cargo. Move! Form columns! No talking. The guards herded the humans toward the exit ramps with practiced efficiency. Marcus found himself in the 3rd row, with Sarah 2 places behind him and a burly miner named Rodriguez to his left. The ship's cargo bay opened with a mechanical roar, and suddenly they were breathing alien air. The atmosphere was thicker than Earth standard, with a metallic taste that made Marcus's throat burn. Artificial suns blazed overhead, casting harsh shadows across a landing platform that stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of Korthak citizens lined elevated viewing platforms, their scales glittering in the artificial light. They clicked and hissed with excitement as the human prisoners were marched across the platform. Some held recording devices, documenting this historic moment for the Empire's archives. Like a zoo, Rodriguez muttered under his breath. They're treating us like animals in a zoo. A guard struck him across the back with an energy baton, sending the big man stumbling. No talking, slave. Marcus helped Rodriguez steady himself, noting how the guard had needed both hands to deliver an effective blow. The Korthak were strong, but their movements were still sluggish compared to human standards. That information might prove useful later. The procession continued toward a massive amphitheater carved into the side of a mountain. The architecture was deliberately imposing, with statues of Korthak warriors towering over the entrance. Each statue held the severed heads of different alien species, a clear message about the fate of those who oppose the Empire. Inside the amphitheater, 10,000 Korthak citizens filled tiered seating that rose toward the artificial sky. At the center of the arena floor, a raised platform held a collection of ornate chairs where the High Council waited. Marcus counted 12 figures in elaborate armor, each representing a different military division or conquered territory. War Captain Zelteroth strutted ahead of the human prisoners, his ceremonial armor polished to mirror brightness. He approached the central chair where a massive Korthak with golden scales sat motionless. This had to be the Supreme Commander, the ultimate authority of the Empire. Supreme Commander Valthek, Zelteroth announced, his voice amplified throughout the arena. I present the first specimens of the species calling itself human. 200 individuals from their mining colony, selected for optimal physical and mental characteristics. The Supreme Commander rose slowly, his forearms spreading in a gesture of dominance. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. These creatures are smaller than expected, War Captain. Are you certain they possess the capabilities described in your reports? Absolutely, Supreme Commander. They demonstrate remarkable adaptability and technical skills. Their emotional responses to stress also make them ideal for arena entertainment. Marcus felt his stomach clench as the implications became clear. They were not just slaves or laborers. They were test subjects for the Korthak's amusement. The Supreme Commander descended from the platform, approaching the line of human prisoners with predatory interest. His four eyes examined each person like a buyer inspecting livestock. When he reached Marcus, those alien eyes locked onto his with unsettling intensity. This one shows no fear, Valthek observed. Interesting. Most species display obvious terror responses at this stage. Marcus kept his expression neutral, but his mind was calculating distances and angles. The Supreme Commander's ceremonial armor had several exposed areas around the neck and joints. His weapon was a curved blade rather than an energy weapon, suggesting a preference for close combat. Fear is for those who have something to lose, Marcus said quietly. The arena fell silent. Even the background hum of machinery seemed to fade as every Korthak citizen strained to hear the human's words. Supreme Commander Valthek's head tilted slightly, his translator processing the unexpected response. You dare speak without permission, creature? You asked a question. I answered it. A ripple of shocked clicks ran through the watching crowd. No slave had ever addressed the Supreme Commander so directly. The other High Council members shifted in their seats, hands moving toward weapons. War Captain Zelteroth stepped forward quickly. Supreme Commander, I apologize for this specimen's behavior. Shall I have it terminated immediately? Valthek raised one arm to stop him. No, this is exactly what makes these humans interesting. They show spirit even in hopeless situations. He leaned closer to Marcus, close enough that his breath fogged the human's face. Tell me, creature, do you understand your situation? I understand that you think you're in control. The Supreme Commander's scales shifted color, a sign of either amusement or anger. And you believe otherwise? Marcus glanced around the arena, noting the positions of guards and exit points. I believe you've never encountered a species that fights back effectively. We have conquered 27 civilizations, human. Each believed they could resist the Empire. And how many of those civilizations had evolved on a death world? The Supreme Commander paused. Death world? Earth, gravity 1.2 times your standard, atmospheric pressure that would crush most of your species, weather patterns that can kill in minutes, predators that hunt in coordinated packs, diseases that adapt faster than medicine. Marcus's voice carried clearly across the silent arena. Humans don't just survive on Earth. We dominate it. Sarah caught Marcus's eye from 2 rows back, and he saw understanding flash across her face. He was not just buying time or making defiant speeches. He was gathering intelligence and psychological information about their captors. Supreme Commander Valthek straightened, his 4 arms spreading in a gesture of dismissal. Impressive words, creature. But words mean nothing here. Only strength matters in the Empire. Then let's test that theory. The challenge hung in the air like a physical presence. Marcus could feel the tension radiating from every Korthak in the arena. Their rigid hierarchy demanded that such insolence be answered immediately and decisively. War Captain Zelteroth drew his plasma pistol. Supreme Commander, allow me to execute this insolent creature immediately. But Valthek held up a restraining hand, his eyes never leaving Marcus's face. No, War Captain. This human wants to test our strength. We shall oblige him. He turned to address the arena. Citizens of the Empire, this creature believes his species can challenge Korthak's superiority. Shall we demonstrate the folly of such beliefs? The crowd erupted in clicking roars of approval. Supreme Commander Valthek smiled, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Release the human from his restraints. War Captain Zeltaroth, you will have the honor of ending this creature's delusions. As the energy shackles fell away from Marcus's wrists, he felt blood rushing back into his hands. Around him, the other prisoners watched with mixture of hope and terror. They knew this was likely a death sentence, but it was also the first real chance any human had been given to strike back. War Captain Zeltaroth stepped into the center of the arena, his ornate armor gleaming under the artificial suns. He drew his ceremonial blade and activated a personal energy shield. Come then, human. Show us this legendary strength of your species. Marcus walked forward slowly, his engineer's mind cataloging every detail of his opponent's equipment and stance. The Korthak moved with confidence, but it was the confidence of someone who had never faced an opponent who could match his reflexes. The arena fell completely silent as the two figures faced each other in the center of the platform. 10,000 alien spectators held their breath, waiting to see their empire's superiority confirmed once again. They had no idea they were about to witness the beginning of the Korthak Empire's downfall. War Captain Zeltaroth circled Marcus like a predator sizing up prey, his ceremonial blade weaving complex patterns in the air. The weapon hummed with energy, its edge glowing white-hot. His personal shield created a faint shimmer around his body, deflecting the harsh arena lighting. You should feel honored, human, Zeltaroth clicked, his translator converting the words into mechanical standard English. Your death will be witnessed by the Empire's greatest citizens. Your blood will consecrate this sacred ground. Marcus remained motionless in the center of the arena, his eyes tracking every movement. He had noticed something interesting about Korthak combat stance. They relied heavily on their superior reach and strength, but their four-armed fighting style created predictable patterns. Each attack sequence followed the same basic rhythm. The crowd's excited chattering faded to expectant silence. Supreme Commander Valthek leaned forward in his chair, his golden scales catching the artificial sunlight. This was entertainment, but it was also a demonstration of Empire superiority. For the other conquered species watching from their cells, Zeltaroth struck without warning, his blade sweeping in a horizontal arc designed to bisect Marcus at the waist. But the human was no longer there. Marcus had dropped to a crouch and rolled left, the superheated edge passing inches above his head. The war captain's eyes widened in surprise. No slave had ever avoided his opening strike. He recovered quickly, bringing his blade around in a vertical slash that should have split Marcus from shoulder to hip. Marcus twisted sideways, the blade missing by millimeters. He could feel the heat from the weapon's edge singing his hair, but he was already moving, staying inside Zeltaroth's reach where the long blade became a liability. Impossible, Zeltaroth hissed, switching to a rapid series of thrusts aimed at Marcus's center mass. But each strike found only empty air as the human flowed around the attacks like water. The arena erupted in confused clicking. This was not going according to plan. Slaves were supposed to die quickly and messily, providing a satisfying demonstration of Korthak supremacy. They were not supposed to make trained warriors look clumsy. Marcus continued his evasive dance, studying his opponent's patterns. Zeltaroth was strong and skilled, but he fought like someone who had never faced real opposition. His techniques were flashy and ceremonial, designed to impress audiences rather than actually kill dangerous opponents. Stand still and die with honor, Zeltaroth roared, abandoning technique for brute force. He brought his blade down in a massive overhead strike that could have cleaved a boulder in half. Marcus sidestepped at the last possible moment, and the blade struck the arena floor with a shower of sparks. For a split second, Zeltaroth was off balance, his weapon embedded in the stone. That was when Marcus struck. 20 years of working with heavy machinery had given Marcus hands like steel cables. He grabbed Zeltaroth's weapon arm and twisted with every ounce of strength in his body. The joint popped audibly, and the war captain's blade clattered across the arena floor. Zeltaroth roared in pain and rage, his remaining 3 arms reaching for Marcus. But the human was already moving, using the alien's own momentum against him. Marcus dropped low and swept Zeltaroth's legs, sending the 7-foot warrior crashing to the ground. The personal shield flickered and died as Zeltaroth hit the stone. Marcus was on him instantly, one knee on the alien's chest and both hands locked around his throat. Zeltaroth's forearms flailed wildly, but he could not get leverage from his position on the ground. "Here's something about humans you should know," Marcus said quietly, his voice somehow carrying clearly across the silent arena. "We evolved from pack hunters. We don't fight for honor or glory, we fight to kill." Zeltaroth's eyes bulged as Marcus's grip tightened. The alien's strength was tremendous, but human hands had evolved to grip and crush. Every muscle in Marcus's arms and shoulders focused on the simple task of stopping his enemy's breathing. Supreme Commander Valthek was on his feet, his golden scales flushed dark with shock. "Guards, stop this immediately." But the arena guards hesitated. Their entire worldview was built around Korthak's superiority. Watching a human dominate their war captain with nothing but bare hands challenged everything they believed about the natural order. That hesitation cost them their chance. Zeltaroth's struggles grew weaker, then stopped entirely. His forearms fell limp to the arena floor, and his eyes stared sightlessly at the artificial suns above. Marcus stood slowly, blood from a dozen small cuts staining his prison uniform. The arena was completely silent except for the hum of machinery and the distant sound of air recyclers. 10,000 Korthak citizens stared in stunned disbelief at the impossible scene before them. "War Captain Zeltaroth is dead," Marcus announced, his voice carrying clearly across the arena, "killed by an unarmed human slave. Your empire just lost its first warrior to a species you thought was weak." Supreme Commander Valthek's voice cracked like a whip. "Kill him. Kill all of them." The arena guards finally moved, raising their weapons toward the human prisoners. But they had waited too long. Marcus dove toward Zeltaroth's fallen blade, rolling to avoid the first plasma bolts that scorched the stone where he had been standing. Sarah's voice cut across the chaos. "Now! The shield generators!" She had been studying the arena's systems through her hidden data pad, waiting for the perfect moment. Her fingers flew across the device's interface, accessing the arena's environmental controls through an unprotected maintenance port. The protective barriers around the spectator stands flickered and died. Suddenly, 10,000 Korthak citizens were exposed and vulnerable, separated from the arena floor by nothing but empty air. Marcus came up running, Zeltaroth's blade singing through the air as he charged the nearest guard position. The weapon was heavier than human tools, but 20 years of maintenance work had given him the strength to wield it effectively. The first guard died before he could adjust his aim, Zeltaroth's blade taking his head cleanly from his shoulders. The second managed to fire once, the plasma bolt searing past Marcus's ear, before the blade opened his chest from sternum to spine. Around the arena, the other human prisoners were moving. Rodriguez tackled a guard, his massive miner's hands crushing the alien's weapon before snapping his neck. Sarah reached another guard station and began overloading their equipment, causing weapons to explode in their wielders' hands. "This is impossible," Supreme Commander Valthek roared. "They are animals, slaves. They cannot—" His words were cut off as the arena's gravity generators flickered. Sarah had found the environmental controls, and she was systematically shutting down every system that kept the arena functioning. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red, and alarm klaxons began wailing across the massive structure. Marcus carved through 2 more guards, their blood spattering the arena floor. Each kill came easier than the last, muscle memory from 100 training simulations taking over. Humans might not have evolved as natural warriors, but they learned fast and adapted faster. "Evacuate the arena," Valthek commanded. "Seal all. Exits. Flood the chamber with poison gas." But the evacuation was turning into a panic. Korthak citizens who had come to watch the slaughter of helpless slaves were now fleeing in terror, as those same slaves systematically killed their guards. The narrow exits created bottlenecks, and the crowd trampled each other in their desperation to escape. Marcus reached the base of the High Council platform, Zeltaroth's blade dripping alien blood. Above him, Supreme Commander Valthek drew his own ceremonial weapon, a curved sword that glowed with internal fire. "You think you have won something here, human?" Valthek hissed. "This changes nothing. Your entire species will burn for this insult." "Maybe," Marcus replied, wiping blood from his eyes. "But you won't be around to see it." The Supreme Commander leaped from the platform, his forearms spreading wide as he descended toward Marcus like a falling star. His blade traced burning arcs through the air, and his war cry echoed off the arena walls. Marcus waited until the last possible moment, then stepped aside and let gravity do the work. Valthek crashed into the arena floor with bone-crushing force, his ceremonial armor cracking from the impact. Before the Supreme Commander could recover, Marcus was on him. Zeltaroth's blade found the gap between armor plates, sliding between scales to pierce alien flesh. Valthek's forearms thrashed wildly, but the damage was already done. "This is for every human you plan to enslave," Marcus said quietly, twisting the blade. Supreme Commander Valthek's golden scales dimmed to gray as the life left his eyes. Around the arena, the last of the guards fell to human hands, their weapons claimed by former prisoners who had learned the cost of underestimating Earth's children. Sarah appeared at Marcus's side, her data pad smoking from overuse. "I've locked down the arena systems, but we have maybe 10 minutes before they bring in heavy weapons." Marcus nodded, looking around at the 200 humans who had just proven that humanity would not go quietly into slavery. "Then we better make those 10 minutes count." The rebellion had begun. The arena's emergency lighting cast everything in blood-red shadows as Marcus surveyed their desperate situation. Dead Korthak guards lay scattered across the stone floor, their weapons now in human hands. But through the sealed exits, they could hear the rumble of heavy vehicles and the metallic clank of military equipment being moved into position. "Rodriguez, how many weapons did we secure?" Marcus called out, wiping alien blood from Zeltaroth's ceremonial blade. The big miner emerged from behind a guard station, his arms loaded with plasma rifles and energy pistols. 16 rifles, 32 sidearms, and enough power cells to fight for maybe an hour. Not exactly an arsenal. Sarah looked up from her data pad, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked to maintain control of the arena's systems. "I'm reading massive troop movements outside. At least 3 full battalions surrounding the structure. They're bringing in siege weapons." Marcus nodded grimly. He had not expected to survive the challenge with Zeltaroth, let alone trigger a full rebellion. But now that they had started this fight, they needed to finish it in a way that would matter. "Listen up, everyone," he called out, his voice carrying across the arena floor. "We all know how this ends. But before we die, we're going to teach these bastards something about humanity. We're going to make them pay for every one of us." Dr. Elizabeth Kane, a xenobiologist from the mining station, approached with several other prisoners. "Marcus, I've been studying the Korthak physiology. Their scales are tough, but they have vulnerable points at the neck joints and under the arms. Their blood is copper-based, so even small wounds cause significant bleeding." "Good intel, Doc. What else?" "Their military hierarchy is rigid. Kill the commanders and the lower ranks freeze up waiting for new orders. They don't improvise well." A young security officer named Taylor spoke up. "I counted the guard rotations during our imprisonment. They change shifts every 4 hours, always in the same patterns. Very predictable." Marcus felt a surge of pride. Even facing certain death, these humans were thinking, planning, adapting. The Korthak had no idea what they had awakened. "Sarah, what's our status on those exits?" "Still sealed, but I'm detecting thermal cutters working on the primary blast doors. Maybe 15 minutes before they breach." "Can you access any other ship or facility systems from here?" Sarah's fingers flew across her data pad. "Limited access to the spaceport traffic control. The main fleet communications array is on a separate network, but..." She paused, her eyes widening. "Marcus, I'm reading something interesting. There's a Korthak supply convoy scheduled to arrive in 20 minutes. Automated cargo haulers carrying weapons and ammunition for the garrison. Can you redirect them? Maybe. If I can convince the traffic control system that there's been a schedule change." Her fingers danced across the interface. "Got it. Convoy route change to dock directly below us in the arena's loading bay." Marcus smiled grimly. "Outstanding. Rodriguez, take 10 people and secure the loading bay. When those ships arrive, we take everything they're carrying. You got it, boss. Dr. Kane stepped forward. Marcus, there's something else. During the medical examinations, I overheard the guards talking about other human prisoners. They've been spreading us across multiple facilities for processing. There are at least 500 more of our people in detention centers around the city. The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders. This was no longer just about their own survival. If they could somehow rescue the other prisoners, they might have enough people to make a real difference. Where are the detention centers? 3 major facilities within 5 kilometers of here. But Marcus, they're heavily fortified. We'd need a distraction big enough to draw off their security forces. Marcus finished. He looked around the arena, his engineer's mind calculating possibilities. Sarah, how much control do you have over the city's infrastructure? More than they probably realize. The Korthak use integrated systems for everything. If I can access the primary network. She worked frantically on her pad. I'm in. Power grid, water treatment, atmospheric processors, traffic control, it's all connected. Can you cause a cascade failure? Something that would cripple the entire city. Sarah's face went pale. Marcus, that would kill millions of civilians. No, we're not targeting civilians. We hit military installations only. But if we can make it look like a massive system failure, they'll have to deploy their forces to protect critical infrastructure. Sarah nodded slowly. I can do that. Overload the power grid in the military district. Crash their communications network. Maybe trigger some false alarms at their weapons depots. Do it. The sound of thermal cutters grew louder as the Korthak forces worked to breach the arena's defenses. Marcus distributed weapons to the most experienced fighters, while others searched the guard stations for additional equipment. Movement in the loading bay. Rodriguez's voice echoed up from below. 3 cargo haulers, just like you said. Mostly automated, minimal crew. Take them quietly if possible. We need those supplies. Minutes later, Rodriguez returned with his team carrying crates of military-grade equipment. Plasma rifles, armor-piercing rounds, portable shield generators, and enough explosives to level a city block. Christmas morning. One of the miners grinned, hefting a heavy assault rifle. Sarah's sabotage was beginning to take effect. Through the sealed arena, they could hear emergency sirens wailing across the city. The lights flickered as power grids overloaded, and the constant hum of atmospheric processors stuttered to a stop. Military communications are down citywide, Sarah reported. I'm reading massive troop movements as they respond to the infrastructure failures. At least half the forces surrounding us have been redeployed. Perfect. Time to move. Marcus organized the prisoners into 3 teams. One group would secure a route to the detention centers. Another would gather intelligence and equipment from the spaceport. The third would hold the arena as long as possible, making the Korthak pay dearly for every meter. Remember, Marcus addressed the assembled humans. We're not trying to conquer their empire. We're trying to buy time for a rescue mission and make them understand that humanity is not prey. Every one of them we kill sends a message to the galaxy. Dr. Kane approached him privately. Marcus, I should tell you something. During the medical examinations, they took tissue and blood samples from all of us. They're planning to study human genetics, probably for biological weapons or enhanced interrogation techniques. Marcus felt cold fury wash over him. Where are the samples? Research facility about 2 kilometers north. It's not heavily guarded because they consider it low priority. Not anymore. That facility just became target number 1. The thermal cutters finally breached the main doors, and Korthak soldiers poured into the arena with military precision. They moved in formation, energy shields raised and weapons, ready for organized resistance. What they found, instead, was 200 humans who had spent 6 days studying alien tactics and 15 minutes preparing an ambush. Marcus led the charge from the left flank, Zeltaroth's blade cutting through energy shields like paper. The ceremonial weapon had been designed to pierce any known armor, and it lived up to its reputation. Behind him, former miners and engineers wielded stolen plasma rifles with deadly accuracy. The Korthak soldiers had superior equipment and training, but they had never faced opponents who could match their reflexes and exceed their adaptability. Within minutes, the arena floor was littered with alien bodies. First wave down, Marcus called out. Team 2, move out. Sarah, how long do we have? Reinforcements are en route, but my sabotage is buying us time. Traffic control is a mess, and half their command structure is trying to deal with the infrastructure failures. Marcus gathered his assault team at the arena's main exit. Beyond the doors lay a city in chaos. Emergency vehicles racing between government buildings while military forces struggled to coordinate their response. "All right, people," Marcus said, checking his appropriated plasma rifle. "We've got about 2 hours before they restore full communications and bring in overwhelming force. 2 hours to rescue 500 prisoners and destroy their research on human genetics. 2 hours to show the galaxy that Earth's children don't surrender." He looked around at faces that showed fear, determination, and something else, a cold, predatory anger that the Korthak had never seen before. These humans had been pushed beyond their breaking point, and now they were pushing back. Let's give them a war they'll never forget. The arena doors burst open, and 200 humans stormed into the heart of the Korthak Empire, carrying stolen weapons and 20 years of accumulated rage. Behind them, the arena burned with emergency fires that would be visible from orbit. The revolution had begun in earnest. The streets of Korthak Prime had never seen chaos like this. Emergency vehicles raced through intersections where traffic control systems flickered between green and red in random patterns. Military transport struggled to navigate roads where automated barriers rose and fell without warning. In the distance, explosions lit up the night as overloaded power stations failed in cascade reactions. Marcus led his assault team through the confusion, using the city's own infrastructure against its defenders. Sarah had given each team leader a portable interface that could hack into local systems, turning security cameras blind and opening locked doors at critical moments. "Research facility is 3 blocks ahead," Dr. Kane reported, consulting the crude map she had drawn from memory. 2-story building, minimal external security. "But Marcus, if they suspect we're coming, they'll destroy the samples before we can reach them," Marcus finished. "That's why we're not going through the front door." He pointed toward a massive atmospheric processing plant that towered over the surrounding buildings. "Sarah, can you trigger an emergency vent from that facility? Something big enough to create a distraction?" Sarah checked her interface. "Absolutely. The safety protocols are designed to prevent atmospheric contamination, but if I override them..." Her fingers worked across the device. "Done. Venting will begin in 90 seconds. Marcus divided his team into 3 groups. "Rodriguez, take 5 people and circle around to the building's rear. Dr. Kane, you're with me on the front assault. Taylor, your team provides overwatch from that tower across the street." The atmospheric plant began venting with a roar that shook windows throughout the district. A massive column of superheated gas erupted skyward, triggering emergency protocols across the city. Fire suppression teams and hazmat units converged on the area, adding to the traffic chaos. "Move," Marcus commanded. The research facility's guards were looking toward the atmospheric plant when Marcus's team struck. These were not elite soldiers, but technicians and security personnel who had never expected to fight for their lives. They died quickly and quietly, their weapons redistributed to the human attackers. Inside the facility, Marcus found something that made his blood boil. The main laboratory contained not just tissue samples from the captured humans, but detailed genetic analysis reports. The Korthak had been planning to engineer biological weapons specifically designed to target human DNA. "Bastards," Rodriguez muttered, reading one of the translated reports. "They were going to wipe us out with custom plagues." Dr. Kane worked frantically at the laboratory computers, downloading everything she could access. "Marcus, this is worse than we thought. They've been doing this to every species they've conquered. Genetic mapping, biological weapons development, selective breeding programs. How long do you need?" 5 more minutes to copy everything and then delete their files." Marcus posted guards at every entrance while Kane worked. Through the facility's windows, he could see military vehicles finally beginning to coordinate their response to the night's chaos. Time was running out. "Got it," Kane announced. "Everything copied and their systems wiped. But Marcus, look at this." She pointed to a section of the data. "They've been broadcasting our genetic information to other Korthak facilities across the galaxy. This research facility was just one node in a massive network." Marcus felt the implications hit him like a physical blow. The Korthak Empire controlled hundreds of worlds, thousands of research facilities. Even if they destroyed this one installation, the threat to humanity would remain. "Can you tell where the information was sent?" "Multiple locations, but the primary xenobiology center is on Korthak Prime. Military district about 12 kilometers from here." That's where they coordinate genetic research for the entire empire. Then that's our next target. Rodriguez shook his head. Marcus, 12 kilometers through hostile territory with every military unit on the planet hunting us? That's suicide. So is letting them develop biological weapons that could kill everyone on Earth. Sarah's voice crackled through their stolen communicators. Marcus, this is urgent. I'm monitoring Korthak military communications. They've figured out the attacks are coordinated, and they're implementing containment protocols. Every human prisoner facility is being locked down with orders to execute the captives if rescue attempts are detected. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices. They could try to rescue the other prisoners, but that would give the Korthak time to spread human genetic data throughout their empire. They could attack the primary research center, but 500 humans would die in detention centers. There's a third option, Dr. Kane said quietly. The military district has a central communications array. If we could access it, Sarah might be able to send a virus through the entire Korthak network. We could hit every research facility simultaneously. Would that work? Sarah's voice was uncertain through the communicator. Maybe. The Korthak use standardized systems across their empire, and they trust their security too much. If I could get direct access to the primary array, I might be able to propagate a data-wiping virus to every connected facility. What about the prisoners? I'm reading the military communications, Sarah continued. The containment protocols have a 60-minute delay built in to allow for false alarms. If we move fast, we can hit the communications array and then extract the prisoners before the deadline. Marcus made the decision. We do both. Team Alpha hits the communications array. Team Beta extracts prisoners from the nearest detention center. Simultaneous strikes in 45 minutes. Marcus, Rodriguez said, that divides our forces. We barely have enough people for one mission. Then we better be twice as good as they expect. The team moved through the burning city like ghosts, using Sarah's hacking abilities to stay ahead of Korthak patrols. The military district loomed ahead, its towers bristling with defensive weapons and communication equipment. Marcus studied the central communications array through scavenged binoculars. The tower rose 300 meters into the night sky, its surface covered with transmission dishes and signal processors. At its base, a fortress-like structure housed the control systems and power generators. Heavy security, Taylor observed. At least 50 guards, automated defense systems, and what looks like a full battalion on standby in the surrounding buildings. They're expecting a frontal assault, Marcus said. We're going to give them something else. He pointed toward a construction site adjacent to the communications facility. Unfinished building, crane access to the tower's upper levels. We go in from above while they're watching the ground. Sarah worked her technical magic, overriding the construction site's security systems and powering up the massive crane. As it swung toward the communications tower, Marcus led his assault team across the improvised bridge of steel cables and support beams. Below them, Korthak guards finally noticed the crane's movement, but by then it was too late. Marcus and his team were already inside the tower's upper levels, fighting their way down toward the control center. The close-quarters combat favored human reflexes and adaptability. Korthak soldiers found themselves outmaneuvered in their own facility as humans flowed around defensive positions like water finding cracks in stone. Control center secured, Marcus reported. Sarah, you're up. Sarah connected her interface to the primary communications array, her fingers flying across holographic displays that controlled an empire's worth of data networks. I'm in the system, but Marcus, this is more complex than I expected. The virus propagation will take at least 10 minutes. You've got it. Rodriguez, what's the status on prisoner extraction? Rodriguez's voice crackled with static and weapons fire. First detention center secured. 147 humans recovered, but we're taking heavy casualties. The Korthak brought in armor support. Marcus felt his team's situation deteriorating. They were trapped in the communications tower with an entire army converging on their position. Even if Sarah succeeded in destroying the genetic research, they would not live to see the results. That's when Dr. Kane made a discovery that changed everything. Marcus, look at these communication logs, she said, pointing to data streaming across the displays. The Korthak have been in contact with something called the Hegemony Council. It's a coalition of older alien civilizations that's been watching the Empire's expansion. So, according to these messages, the Council has been waiting for proof that the Korthak Empire can be defeated. They've been preparing for war, but they needed evidence that resistance was possible. Sarah looked up from her work. Dr. Kane's right. I'm seeing encoded transmissions to dozens of other species. The Council has been organizing a rebellion, waiting for the right moment to strike. Marcus felt hope flicker in his chest. Can you contact them? Already am, Sarah replied. I'm transmitting everything, the arena fight, our escape, the genetic research data, and our assault on this facility. The entire galaxy is about to learn that humans don't surrender. Through the tower's windows, Marcus could see Korthic forces massing for a final assault. Plasma cannon were being positioned to level the entire structure. They had minutes at most, BG. Virus upload complete, Sarah announced. Every Korthak research facility in the Empire just lost their genetic databases. And the battle for the communications tower became a symphony of destruction that echoed across Korthak. Prime. Plasma cannon fire turned the tower's lower levels into molten metal, while human defenders fought with the desperate fury of cornered predators. Above them, the night sky burned with ship-to-ship combat as the Hegemony Council's fleets engaged Korthak orbital defenses. Marcus crouched behind a melted support beam, watching Korthak assault troops climb through the wreckage below. His stolen plasma rifle was down to its last power cell, and half his team was wounded or dead. But they had held the tower for 2 hours, long enough for Sarah's virus to cripple the Empire's research network across dozens of star systems. Movement on level 15, Taylor called out, his voice hoarse from breathing superheated air. Full squad, heavy weapons. Marcus counted his remaining ammunition and made calculations. They had maybe 10 minutes of fighting left before their position became untenable. Outside, the orbital battle was intensifying as more Council ships dropped out of hyperspace to join the fight. Sarah, any word from those Earth ships? Sarah looked up from her station, sweat and debris covering her face. Still 6 hours out, but they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The entire galaxy knows what happened here. Humanity's first contact with an alien empire, and we killed their supreme commander with our bare hands. Rodriguez appeared from the stairwell, dragging a wounded miner. They've breached level 12. We can't hold much longer. That's when the unexpected happened. Through the tower's shattered windows came a sound that none of them recognized, the roar of atmospheric fighters engaging in aerial combat directly over the city. But these were not Korthak aircraft. Dr. Kane peered through a damaged viewport. Marcus, look at this. Those fighters have Council markings, but the pilots... She paused, adjusting her vision enhancers. The pilots are from different species. I see Zalathi, Vorlak, even some of those crystal-based life forms from the Outer Rim. They're all fighting together. Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction. The Council's response was not just military support. It was proof that the galaxy could unite against tyranny. Humanity's rebellion had become the spark for something much larger. Incoming transmission, Sarah announced. It's from the lead Council ship. A holographic figure materialized above Sarah's interface, a tall, ethereal being with translucent skin and eyes like liquid silver. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of ancient wisdom. Human defenders, this is Fleet Marshal Theiss of the Hegemony Council. We have monitored your actions against the Korthak Empire. Your species has demonstrated the courage and adaptability we have been seeking. The Council formally recognizes humanity as a free people and offers military alliance against the Empire. Marcus stood, despite the plasma fire raking the tower around him. Fleet Marshal, this is Marcus Chen representing the captured humans. We accept your alliance, but we need immediate extraction. Our position is about to be overrun. Negative on extraction, Human Chen. Your current position is too heavily defended for our transport ships to reach. However, we can offer alternative assistance. The Fleet Marshal's image flickered as another plasma blast shook the tower. Our tactical analysis indicates that the Korthak Military Command Center is located beneath your current position. If you can reach it and disable their planetary defense grid, we can land troops to secure the area. Marcus looked around at his exhausted team. Fleet Marshal, we're down to 12 effective fighters and minimal ammunition. Assaulting a command center is not impossible for your species, the alien interrupted. We have studied the recordings of your arena battle and tower assault. Humans possess tactical flexibility that the Korthak cannot counter. We are transmitting building schematics and defense layouts to your technician. Sarah's interface lit up with detailed architectural plans. Marcus, he's right. The command center is directly below us, connected by service tunnels. And look at this. Their security is focused on external threats. They never expected an attack from above. Dr. Kane studied the tactical data. The command center controls everything. Orbital defenses, troop movements, even life support for the military district. If we could disable it, the entire Korthak defense grid would collapse, Marcus finished. And 500 of our people would be saved. Rodriguez shook his head. Even if we reach the command center, how do we get past their security? These tunnels will be crawling with guards. Marcus smiled grimly. We don't sneak past them. We make them come to us, he outlined his plan quickly. Sarah would overload the tower's fusion reactor, creating a controlled explosion that would look like they had all died in a desperate last stand. Meanwhile, the team would use the service tunnels to reach the command center, while Korthak forces were investigating the apparent destruction above. That's insane, Taylor protested. If Sarah miscalculates the reactor overload, we actually will die. Trust me, Sarah said, her fingers already working on the reactor controls. I've been an engineer longer than I've been a prisoner. I can make this work. The plan required split-second timing. As Korthak assault troops breached the tower's upper levels, Sarah triggered the reactor overload. The resulting explosion vaporized 3 floors of the communications array, sending a mushroom cloud into the night sky that was visible across the city. But in the service tunnels below, Marcus and his team were already moving. The blast had disabled most of the building's security systems, and the tunnel routes were exactly as the Council had described. Within 20 minutes, they reached the entrance to the Korthak Military Command Center. The facility was vast, an underground complex that stretched for kilometers beneath the city. Through reinforced windows, Marcus could see hundreds of Korthak officers coordinating the defense of their homeworld. Massive holographic displays showed the orbital battle, troop movements, and defensive positions across the planet. How do we get inside? Rodriguez whispered. Dr. Kane pointed to a maintenance access that led to the facility's environmental systems. If we can reach the atmospheric control, Sarah can flood the complex with sleeping gas from their own emergency supplies. Won't that affect us too? Not if we hold our breath for 3 minutes. Marcus marveled at how quickly his team had adapted to impossible situations. 6 days ago, they had been civilian miners and technicians. Now they were planning to single-handedly disable the command center of a galactic empire. The infiltration went perfectly. Sarah hacked the environmental controls while Marcus and Rodriguez eliminated the few guards they encountered. Within minutes, unconscious Korthak officers were slumping over their control stations as emergency gas flooded the complex. Command center secured, Marcus reported to the Council fleet. Beginning shutdown of planetary defenses. Sarah worked frantically at the primary control console, her interface adapting to alien technology with remarkable speed. Orbital defense platforms going offline. Atmospheric shields deactivating. Marcus, I'm also seeing something interesting. Communication logs between this facility and other Korthak worlds. They've been planning an invasion of Earth. Marcus felt cold fury wash over him. How long until the invasion fleet arrives? According to these schedules, they're already en route. 48 ships heavily armed expected to reach Earth in 18 days. Fleet Marshal Thiss, Marcus called out. Did you copy that? The Korthak have an invasion fleet heading for Earth. The alien commander's response crackled with static. Confirmed, Human Chen. Council forces will intercept the invasion fleet before it reaches your homeworld. However, this intelligence confirms our worst fears about Korthak expansion plans. Through the command center's main viewport, Marcus could see Council ships landing in the city above. Alien soldiers were pouring out to secure critical facilities, while Korthak defenders retreated in disorder. The planetary defense grid's collapse had turned the tide of battle decisively. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Force, Sarah announced. It's Admiral Harrison, commander of the rescue fleet. A new holographic figure appeared, a stern-faced human woman in military uniform. This is Admiral Sarah Harrison to human survivors on Korthak Prime. We are 6 hours from orbital insertion. Hold your positions and prepare for evacuation. Marcus stepped forward. Admiral, this is Marcus Chen. We've secured the planetary command center with assistance from Hegemony Council forces. The immediate threat to our people has been neutralized, but the Korthak Empire is planning an invasion of Earth. Admiral Harrison's expression hardened. Copy that, Mr. Chen. Earth Command has been monitoring your situation since the mining station attack. We're prepared for whatever the Korthak want to throw at us. Admiral, there's something else. We've recovered detailed intelligence on Korthak military capabilities and genetic research programs. This information could be vital for Earth's defense. Understood. Prepare all intelligence for immediate transmission upon our arrival. As the communication ended, Marcus looked around at his exhausted team. They had done the impossible, not just surviving captivity but striking back so effectively that they had triggered a galactic rebellion. The Korthak Empire's reputation. 3 months after the liberation of Korthak Prime, Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the EDF battleship Retribution, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. The blue marble of humanity's homeworld had never looked more beautiful, but it was also more heavily defended than ever before in human history. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons designed from captured Korthak technology. The moon hosted massive shipyards where human engineers worked alongside Council technicians to build a new generation of warships. Most importantly, Earth was no longer alone. Ships from a dozen Council species maintained patrol routes throughout the Sol system. Hard to believe it's only been 3 months, Sarah said, joining him at the viewport. She now wore the uniform of Earth Defense Intelligence, her expertise in alien systems making her invaluable to humanity's defense efforts. Feels like a lifetime, Marcus agreed. How are the other survivors adapting? Better than expected. Rodriguez is helping design new infantry weapons based on what we learned about close-quarters combat with aliens. Dr. Kane is working with the Xenobiology Department to develop countermeasures against biological weapons. Taylor's training special forces units in alien combat tactics. Marcus nodded. Every human who had survived Korthak captivity had become an expert in fighting an interstellar empire. Their knowledge was now helping prepare Earth for the greater conflict ahead. Any word on the invasion fleet we stopped? Sarah's expression grew grim. Council forces intercepted them 6 days out from Earth. The battle lasted 18 hours, but we won. 48 Korthak ships destroyed, with minimal Council casualties. But Marcus, they were carrying something worse than just weapons. Biological weapons. Worse. Orbital bombardment systems designed to crack planetary crusts. They weren't planning to invade Earth, they were planning to destroy it completely. Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. The Korthak Empire's response to humanity's rebellion had been attempted genocide. Only the intervention of Council forces had prevented Earth's annihilation. What's the current status of the Empire? Collapsing faster than anyone expected. 73 worlds have declared independence in the last month alone. The Korthak military is spread too thin to suppress rebellions on multiple fronts. According to Council intelligence, they're withdrawing to their core systems. Fleet Admiral Harrison's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. All hands prepare for orbital insertion. Welcome home, heroes. The Retribution settled into Earth orbit alongside the rest of the rescue fleet. Through the viewport, Marcus could see dozens of ships from the Hegemony Council, maintaining defensive positions. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. The reunion on Earth was overwhelming. Marcus found himself standing before the World Council, giving testimony about humanity's first contact with an alien empire. Representatives from every nation listened as he described the arena battle, the tower assault, and the intelligence that had prevented Earth's destruction. The question before us, said Secretary General Liu, is how humanity proceeds in this new galactic environment. The Hegemony Council has offered us full membership in military alliance, but such membership comes with responsibilities. Marcus stood to address the assembly. Madam Secretary General, 3 months ago I was a maintenance engineer who just wanted to do his job and go home to his family. The Korthak Empire forced me to become something else. They forced all of us to become something else. He paused, looking around the chamber at faces representing all of humanity. The Council species have been fighting tyranny for centuries, but they've been fighting defensively. They've been surviving, not winning. Humanity brings something different to this conflict. We bring the willingness to take risks, to adapt, to hit back harder than our enemies expect. You're recommending we join the war effort? Asked the representative from the African Federation. I'm recommending we lead it, Marcus replied. The Korthak Empire tried to enslave us, then tried to exterminate us. They failed both times because they underestimated human capabilities. But they're not the only threat out there. The galaxy is full of empires that prey on weaker species. The Council has been containing them, but containment isn't victory. Secretary General Liu leaned forward.
What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Chen?
Marcus activated a holographic display showing the local galactic region. The Council has provided us with detailed intelligence on 17 different aggressive civilizations. Most operate the same way as the Korthak. Overwhelming technological superiority against species that can't fight back effectively. But they've never faced coordinated resistance. He highlighted several star systems. Humanity should spearhead a campaign to liberate enslaved worlds and defeat predatory empires. Not just defending ourselves, but actively hunting down the bullies of the galaxy. We show them what happens when they pick on someone who can fight back. The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. Representatives argued about the risks of aggressive action, the costs of galactic warfare, and humanity's readiness for such a massive undertaking. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Earth would join the Hegemony Council as a full member and take the lead in military operations against aggressive alien empires. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the EDFS Defiant, the first human-built starship designed specifically for deep space warfare. Around him, officers from a dozen different species worked together to coordinate the largest military operation in galactic history. Fleet status report, Marcus requested. As the hero of Korthak Prime, he had been offered any position in Earth's military. He had chosen to remain a field commander, leading mixed human-alien forces against the galaxy's worst threats. 237 ships from 14 different council species, reported his executive officer. A crystalline being called Shadar. Human vessels make up 30% of the fleet, but your people comprise 50% of the assault troops. Marcus smiled. Other species contributed technology, resources, and experience. Humans contributed the willingness to close with the enemy and destroy them in personal combat. Target status? The Veltar Empire has fortified their core systems, but intelligence suggests they're preparing to abandon their outer territories. 17 enslaved species have already declared independence, and their military is in full retreat. Through the bridge viewport, Marcus could see the assembled fleet, the largest concentration of free world's military power ever assembled. Ships that had fought each other for centuries now flew together under unified command, united by humanity's example of successful resistance. Sarah, what's our intelligence on the next target? Sarah, now serving as Fleet Intelligence Coordinator, consulted her displays. The HFY Collective is mobilizing to suppress rebellions in their territory. They've begun executing civilian populations to maintain control. Council estimates suggest they'll succeed in restoring order within 6 months if we don't intervene. Then we intervene. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We're going to teach the HFY the same lesson we taught the Korthak. As the fleet prepared to depart, Marcus received a private communication from Earth. The image of his daughter appeared on his personal screen, now grown up and serving as a junior officer in the Earth Defense Force. Dad, I wanted you to know that recruitment for the Galactic Liberation Corps exceeded all expectations. 30,000 volunteers from across the solar system. Apparently everyone wants to follow your example. Marcus felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. Just remember, Katie, this isn't about glory or revenge. It's about making sure no other species has to go through what we did. We're not conquerors, we're liberators. I know, Dad. You taught me that strength should protect the weak, not exploit them. We'll make you proud. As the communication ended, Marcus looked out at the stars ahead. Somewhere in that vast darkness, enslaved populations waited for liberation. Predatory empires prepared for war, and humanity led the charge toward a galaxy where freedom was not the exception, but the rule. The Korthak Empire had made a fatal mistake when they captured humans from a mining station. They had awakened a species that refused to accept defeat, refused to surrender, and refused to let bullies prey on the innocent. War Captain Zeltaroth had struck a human in an alien arena, expecting to demonstrate the superiority of his empire. Instead, he had died in seconds, and his death had triggered the liberation of the galaxy. Marcus smiled as the fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's message to the stars. Earth's children had arrived, and the age of galactic tyranny was over. The universe would never be the same. The end. The liberation of the galaxy continued for 7 more years, with human-led forces freeing over 400 enslaved worlds and dismantling 16 predatory empires. Marcus Chen eventually returned to Earth as Supreme Allied Commander, but his greatest pride remained the simple fact that no species would ever again face the choice between slavery and death. In the new galactic order, there was always a third option, calling for humanity.